and I am back with my September wrap-up. Now, I'm going to try to hurry this along because I have 22 books that I read in September. If you did not see my last video, I was away from BookTube for much of the summer because I was dealing with some anxiety and some other things and trying to pull some things in my life together, basically, and studying for the MCAT. So I am back now. I was in a huge reading slump for a lot of the summer. If you look at my last video, I explained the summer. But anyway, September turned it way around. At the beginning of September, I wanted to read a book that was kind of lighter and fluffier to try to pull me out of my reading slump. Basically, I wasn't looking for a book that I would think, oh my gosh, that was so good, or oh, that was the best book I've read in a long time. I wanted like a fun book, a fun, lighthearted book. But you guys know me, I love fantasy, so I think that I haven't read a young adult contemporary. I think I read a couple of them maybe in middle school, but I don't think I've read one since then, and they weren't my favorite when I did read them. My version of fluffy is a fluffy teenage sort of book, but still has magic in it because it has to have magic because it's me. So I had seen a lot of people talking about Rebel Belle by Rachel Hawkins on BookTube, and I thought that looked like a fun, funny book that still has magic in it and everything, but I would enjoy it and it would be fluffy. I got it from the library and I've already returned it, so I don't have it, but here it is. I will try to figure out how to put it in here. Hopefully I manage it. On September 3rd, this was the one I started. I got it from the library, I opened it up, and I was all excited that this was gonna be the start of pulling me out of my reading slump, this book. And I opened it up to the first page. I read the first sentence of the book, and I put it down, and I thought, I cannot read this book. Like, I really don't even think I can make myself read this book. It sounded like totally not my type of book. And I'm glad I gave it a chance further past the first chapter, because the first chapter was full of things that made me think, oh my gosh, I can't do it. The first sentence is, looking back, none of this would have happened if I'd brought lip gloss the night of the homecoming dance. I read that sentence, and I was just like, I don't know if I can do this. This book, and I kept reading the first chapter, and it was more of this, like, very, I don't know, just, oh, I didn't know if I could do it, but I'm really glad that I kept reading it, because the book was really fast-paced and fun, and the author was funny, and you know, there was magic, there was this, there was that, but it was a really fun book. The premise of the book is this girl named Harper Price is sort of the debutante type, Southern belle, basically, and she wants to be the homecoming queen, and it starts with the homecoming night, and she forgets her lip gloss. Oh my gosh, the end of the world, she forgot her lip gloss. So her friend lends her some lip gloss, and she goes to the bathroom to put it on, and then this teacher runs in like all frazzled and running for his life from someone and locks the door, and basically he's dying, and he transfers this strange power to her that suddenly now she's something called a paladin, which is a protector, a magical protector, and she has to protect someone who happens to be her arch nemesis throughout school or whatever. And so she has to protect him even if she doesn't like him. It's very fluffy, very light, but I actually enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would, and I'm glad I gave it a chance because it wasn't the best book I read in a long time, but it was what I was looking for. I was looking for a fluffy, fun book. That's what I got. Then I get, I think they're daily emails from this thing called BookBub. I will link it down below. And basically, it is an email with ebook things. And some of them are free ebooks that are offered, or ebooks that are, you know, 99 cents or $1.99 or something like that, that are offered to basically as advertising. Basically, the publisher wants more people to know about this book, therefore they offer it for a limited time for a cheaper price, therefore people might read it and then review it on Amazon or review it on Goodreads or something like that. So yes, there are books on there that you can, ebooks on there that you can get for free. However, you have to take everything on there with a grain of salt because they're free for a reason. Some of them aren't that good. So some of them are just trying to be noticed more. And then, you know, every once in a while there's a hidden gem on there. But there's a lot of stuff on there that I wouldn't even click on, let alone some that I would click on and find it not to be so good. Anyway, I read 5 books, the first of which I found on the BookBub email thing. And these are in a series. I got the first one for free and the other 4 for 99 cents. And they are the Courtlight series by Tara Eden. This is an ebook, and this is the cover of the first book. The first book is called Sworn to Raise. Now, I got this for free on BookBub. This is a fantasy series. I clicked on this book because the blurb said that people who like Tamora Pierce and Maria V. Snyder and Kristen Cashore will like this book. And those are some of my favorite authors. They write fantasy with kick-ass female leads. And I love their books. So I decided to give it a chance. Now when I started reading it, the story wasn't grabbing me at first, and the writing was not so great. But I kept reading it, and I'm glad I gave it a chance because it did get much better later. Okay, so basically, this girl lives in poverty. She's a laundry woman. She's 17 years old, and she somehow goes to train for this Companions Guild thing, which is kind of a strange, interesting concept of basically like okay, the best way I can describe this is really talented, really useful arm candy for people. I don't know, like nobles or whatever, like a lot of them have magical powers that are really useful, or I don't really know, but basically it's kind of a weird concept that I wasn't sure that I would like, but it ended up working out later in the book. But basically the premise seems kind of weird, but when I was reading it, it was actually good. The story was good. Here's where I have to differentiate. I read the first 5, and I found that the story was good, and the story, it did seem kind of similar to some of my favorite authors, their type of story that they would tell. A fantasy story with a kick-ass female heroine who goes on all these adventures and does this stuff. However, the writing at some places was atrocious. At some places it was okay. At some places it was just atrocious. And I found myself editing when I was reading, basically not just typos, because there were typos, which is not really acceptable, but in addition to typos there were other things where it would say like the something something something, the black stallion that so-and-so is riding on, and then the next sentence it says the black stallion that so-and-so was riding on, is just saying, instead of just saying the stallion, basically repeating phrases that don't need to be repeated. It needs a lot of streamlining, and I found that although the story was generally pretty good, the writing was not that great. But it was the sort of one where I found myself rooting for the author, just thinking she really needs a good editor and it could actually be good. Like, I would really enjoy it, but I don't know if I would necessarily recommend this to people yet. But if you did want to try it out, I can link below, and the first one might still be free, so you could try it. I did find that the 5th one definitely was not as good as the first 4, because the whole thing was kind of extended council meetings and negotiations, and then they got attacked like 5 or 6 times along the way. So the 5th one, in terms of general structure, needs a lot of work. But the first 4 I found to be, I liked the story. So I don't know quite how to describe it. I can't really keep talking about this because I have a lot to talk about, having read 22 books. But I did enjoy those, although they need a lot of work. So those are the Courtlight series. I think if she took a little bit more time on editing and got someone else to edit, it could be better. Then I read the Hex Hall series by Rachel Hawkins, also the author of Rebel Belle. And I really enjoyed these. They were fun, fluffy. Basically, this girl is a witch, but she has to go to this boarding school for Prodigium, they're called, who have powers, basically like witches, shapeshifters, werewolves, there's one vampire there or something, fairies, and this school is for people who are basically teenagers who can't blend into the normal world, who have these powers. They have to go there for school. And this series I found to be very fun. My favorite type of book is high fantasy, and these have magic, and I guess they're considered fantasy. They are considered fantasy, but they are not high fantasy. With the exception of the Courtlight series, those are high fantasy, but they weren't like great high fantasy, so I don't really count those. Most of what I read for the first part of September is not high fantasy because I was, again, kind of binge reading books that weren't like amazing, but were kind of fun, and I just got through them. This is Hex Hall, the first book. Demon Glass, the second book. The third book is called Spellbound. I read it on Kindle because my library didn't have it. Here it is, hopefully, if I can put it on the screen. So that trilogy I found to be very fun. The main character is really snarky and hilarious, and Rachel Hawkins is a very funny writer, and the story was fun, and I really enjoyed them, and they weren't like, oh, that was such a good book, but I finished it and I thought, you know, that was fun. That was really funny, and I enjoyed it. So the Hex Hall trilogy, and then also School Spirits, which is a spin-off of the Hex Hall trilogy, which features one of the characters from the third book in a different setting. So these Hex Hall books, plus the third one in the trilogy, which I read on Kindle. Then I read some more books from BookBub, which you have to take with a grain of salt because, you know, they might not be as good. So I wasn't really expecting to like it that much, but I was kind of just reading it because it was there and because I was waiting for other stuff from the library. So I read the Chani trilogy by Charlotte Abel, which the books are Enchantment, Taken, and Finding Valor. I don't know if I'll be able to put them here or not. I think it's a young adult paranormal. Basically, it's like this girl who is kind of a witch. Okay, so the story was okay. There was insta-love, there were YA tropes, there was this, there was that, which was meh, right? And the characters were kind of annoying sometimes, but what I did find interesting about this trilogy was the world building that the author did. It's kind of interesting. They're in the Appalachia region and Cumberland region. So the main character is a mage, and her family and other mage kind of clans or tribes live in this Appalachia region. So basically they're like hillbillies, hillbilly mages, for lack of a better word. And there is this concept of power names where each character has a name. So the main character is named Enchantment, so she can like kind of manipulate people to get her way. Her father's name is Money, so he gambles a lot and he's obsessed with money. And her mother's name is Prudence, and like there's all these different power names. So one of the characters is named Hunter, so he's really good at tracking things and hunting using his mage abilities. I did find the concept of power names to be interesting, and I also found the whole world building of hillbilly mages to be quite fun. But the actual story, I did like it better than I thought I would, but it was full of YA tropes and this and that, so I don't know. I know I didn't really describe it that well, but basically, I don't want to talk too much about it. It was okay. Enough talking about that.